So in today's episode of Off Topic Talks, I don't have my other phone for prompts. I don't have the questions listed on that other phone, not because I don't want to, but because the battery died right before I got ready to film this, which means I was inadequately prepared. I dropped the ball, and this might prove to be a little bit of an issue because I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to remember all three questions once I get my breath rolling. So the standard has been I roll these videos in one breath. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that today. I don't want to let you down, but I also want to be a little bit of a realist because I might forget the questions. So we're going to see how well my memory serves me at this hour of the day. Worth noting, this is not even coffee, this is just water, so it's not even going to be a mental boost for me. So I believe the first question, not even the first, I don't know which one it was, I believe one of the three questions was how do I remain consistently optimistic? And this is a great question because I think a lot of people actually struggle remaining optimistic and looking at situations through an optimistic lens. Now, I would say first and foremost, it helps that I'm pretty sure I'm kind of wired with that slant, more of a growth mindset, if you will, where I don't necessarily look at situations as wins or losses or successes or failures. I just look at them based off the experience itself, and then I kind of determine what lessons there are to be learned in it, whether it's good or bad, because you can reflect on a good experience and determine how it could have been better. You can look at a perceived loss and determine where did that misstep happen? Where was that mistake in the strategy? Where was the blunder that took place? And how can you overcome it in the future? As they say, only a fool burns himself on the same fire twice. So, knowing as much, I don't really look at things as, oh my goodness, this is the ultimate failure. Everybody makes mistakes. And to a degree, the faster you can make mistakes, assuming they're not the same mistakes over and over again, and the more you can take those mistakes as lessons learned and then move forward with that new knowledge base, that new experience, almost that wisdom, if you will, the further ahead you're going to get in life relative to your individual pursuits. The second thing I do to remain consistently optimistic is what I call cultivation of gratitude. And cultivating gratitude is kind of a term I came up with a couple of years ago. I don't know if I came up with it. I'm pretty sure I did because I don't hear anyone else talk about it. And every time I bring it up, people are like, hey, I like the sound of that. But if I didn't, correct me, give the credit where it's due. But basically what that is a combination of seeking out information that reminds me how good I have it and taking the time to audit my position on the global scale. The reality is we often look to other people's highlight reels, especially in this social media society that we have. And it can become very easy to get caught up in how good others seem to be doing. Whether or not they are, we don't know. Some of them are putting on a front. But take a step back, and although I'm not a fan of looking behind you, if you will, getting caught up in the past, what I mean by this more is looking at how far ahead of the majority of people you are, not in a competitive sense, in a realistic sense. You're doing great on a global scale. There are people who perceive your worst nightmare to be their ultimate dream. They would literally, and I know this sounds very negative, but they would literally kill to live your life, the one that you're complaining about or frustrated by or what may be. So on a regular basis, I try and cultivate gratitude where I remind myself of this, I recognize this reality, and I realize that at the end of the day, nothing I can really experience, excluding traumatic situations, both mentally and physically, is all that bad in the grand scheme of things. So between that cultivation of gratitude, as well as that almost natural wiring to look at situations for the experience they are, rather as opposed to defining them as positive or negative, I think both of those contributing factors really help me remain optimistic on a consistent basis. That's a great question though. Second question, do I always look forward to working out? Look, I remember two of them. We're off to the races here. We might get through this. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really know if I remember what the heck the third question was, so we might have to roll it just at two, but we'll see. Do I always look forward to working out? The answer to that is no. A lot of people assume that because I like training and because I train so consistently that I always am in the mood to train and work out, and that's just not the case. So the term I use for this is punch the clock. I do a lot of punch the clock workouts where I show up, I'm disciplined enough to show up, I pay my dues, I might hit PRs, I might make progress, no doubt, but I really don't want to be there. And this surprises a lot of people, surprises a lot of clients as well, that's my general perception when it comes to dealing with training. They think that I'm 110% gung-ho every single time I show up at the gym, and that's not the reality at all. So consistency and discipline pay off big time, and recognizing that successful people do what they have to do, whether they feel like it or not, and 80% of success itself is simply showing up. So that's what I do. I show up, I do what has to be done. I don't have to feel excited about it. If I only trained when I was in a great mood, it'd probably be like one of my 4 workouts a week. If I trained only when I felt good or better, I might get 2 in. I'd say about 50% of my workouts are either neutral or I'm just not in the mood and there's other things I would rather be doing. But I know how good I feel when I make that progress. I also know how beneficial it is to me mentally and physically. Now the question becomes, talking about mentally, what the heck was the third question? And I'm not entirely sure what the third question was. So I'm gonna have to think for about 15 to 20 seconds and see if I can pull it out of wherever it's hiding in my head. So we're gonna take a second here, and I'm just going to sip this water. Aha, I remember what it was. I got it. Took me a half a second there. Actually, it took me a lot more than half a second. So the third question was, what other projects do I currently have in the wings that aren't necessarily training or gym related? And that's a great question. So what I'm currently working on right now is bringing to fruition another vision that I have, which is a fitness apparel line. This is something that has kind of been in the wings for a few years now. I started it a couple of years ago, just kind of in-house with the clients that I worked with, as an option for them. You know, if they wanted a hoodie, if they wanted a hat, something along those lines. And I've always had a dream of having a much larger brand in consideration of that apparel. But I've never really had time to work on it. And it frustrates me because I'm the type of person where I've got 27 fires burning at the same time. And sometimes I get frustrated when one of them is not burning as aggressively as I would like it to, when the flame is not as big as I would like it to be, when I know what sort of potential it has, and I know that if I had the actual time to work on it, I would probably crush it. So that's been a frustrating point for me, but throughout lockdown, it's been a little bit of a blessing in disguise because I've actually had the time to attend to it enough to at least set the foundation where it's not going to require the same degree of time to roll with, because obviously the setup of a new project, kind of navigating all of that foundational work, is oftentimes the most draining aspect of bringing a vision or a new idea through to fruition. Once you build that foundation out, there's no doubt that it still takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, but you have a better idea of how to navigate it, and further, you can better determine what can be delegated and what tasks you can pass off to somebody else that will likely be much more effective at those tasks than you will. So that's something that I've been working on in the wings. If you've been following me on any of the social media platforms, you likely are aware that that is a project that I've been chipping away at, and the consistency with which I chip away at it has been somewhat greater over the most recent weeks in lockdown. So yeah, I'm surprised I got that third question. For a moment there, I had no idea what the heck it was until I remembered somebody had asked that relatively recently on social media. So there we go, 3 questions, off-topic talks. They're completely off-topic. They don't even relate to each other more often than not, but that's how I remain optimistic. I don't always look forward to training, and we've got an apparel line in the wings. If you happen to have any questions whatsoever, regardless of what the topic might be, remember, this is off-topic talk, so feel free to send it my way, and you might be surprised to find it in an upcoming piece of content. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow or subscribe, depending on what social media platform you might be seeing this on.